Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to yet another interesting webinar by TeamLease. Uh, Again, this has become a ritual for us. That every week we conduct this webinar. We have quite an intense conversation, around taking views from the experts on how we can enable the process of putting India back to work. Just like all the previous discussions we had so far, we have got an interesting mix of expert panelists today. Please join me to welcome Ms. Kripa Krishnamoorthy. Kripa is Director at HR, Citibank, Global Consumer Banking, South Asia. She's an alumni of this, as she has previously worked with companies like Royal Bank of Scotland, ABN AMRO, Marico, and of course spent a long amount of time with Citibank. We also have Miss Ranjana Hegre with us. She's head of HR for Skechers South Asia. An alumni of XLRI. She's worked with large organizations like SD Aluminium Group, Sodexo, Goldshieet Pharmaceuticals, and now she's been heading Skechers for the Southeast Asia. And we have, last but not the least, Mr. Alok. Mr. Alok is one of the veteran in the financial services HR domain. He's currently heading HR. He's EVP, head of HR for HDFC Asset Management, and I've worked with organizations like Tata AIG Global Ventures, Cadbury, Crompton Greaves. So welcome to all of you, for this webinar. We have a lot of experience and diverse experience today with us, as panelists, and it would be quite an insightful for all of us. Before we move ahead, I would like to get some ground rules set. As the Q&A session starts with the panelists, which is of course at the end, I'm sure all of you will have a lot of questions in your mind. Please feel free to put all your questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom instead of putting in the chat. I think Q&A tab is the one which we will monitor to put all the questions so that we can respond to as many as possible. Now, without further delays, I would like to start with my first question. And my first question would be that, it's quite clear now that with businesses resuming, putting India back to work will be challenging. And we have already started seeing those challenges. Now, how do we infuse the confidence in employees and resume the business operations? What new measures, protocols, as your organizations implemented to ensure a safe working environment? So, Kripa, over to you. A small brief about yourself, and the Citibank, and of course your response to this question.
Thank you, Amit, to bring me as a part of this panel. And I do think that as HR leaders, it is one of our key tasks to infuse the confidence and bring back the country onto the road for recovery. So thank you for making me a part of this panel. But having said that, I would say, well, it is not really return to work as much in at least the environment that I am a part of, as much as return to office. We returned to work on the 23rd of March, albeit in a new format of working. Yes, it is also not a one-size-fits-all. Some of the teams that I supported had lot more challenges than some others, which were able to seamlessly adapt to the new way of working. So that brings me to set some context, right? In nature of my role, I support the consumer banking businesses, of course, the branches, the cards business, mortgages, both the assets and the liability side of the business, including solutions to city businesses, which are small to medium-sized businesses, providing banking solutions for all of them. And I also support what we call our global in-house centers or our city solution centers, who basically support operations, technology, and analytics needs for Citi worldwide out of our 2 offices in Bangalore as well as in Chennai, right? And what we've learned through this pandemic is as we came back on the 23rd, for the want of a better word, right, in a new format, there emerged really 6 working formats, loosely speaking. The first was our branches, which we call as site dependent, where barring maybe a few days, almost all of our branches, like the other financial services branches as required by the RBI, have been open for customers. We've stayed open throughout. So one is really a site dependent set of employees. The second is really our call centers, right? And traditionally, because of DOT regulations, our call centers have always necessitated to operate out of office premises. Just like organizations have adapted, regulators have adapted and made accommodations in their regulations to ensure that we keep people safe and yet deliver to customers. So one of the formats of work that have benefited have been remote call centers. People are taking calls from our customers on from their homes, and this is all possible because of regulatory accommodations that have been made given the exceptional circumstances that we are at. Now, the third lot of people are really the client-facing people. In the period of the lockdown, we've really not been able to acquire clients. So I do think that is a space that was a bit different. So we can't really say everybody went back to work on the 23rd. But having said that, again, in the space that we operate, digital connections with customers have been possible. Citi has been at the forefront of some of these. We have apps which allow for virtual interactions even with customers on a safe channel. And we have doubled and tripled our interactions with our customers in that sort of a format, especially in the retail organization. So that's really the third format. The fourth format, which has been a little bit more challenging, is when we support non-India geographies. We have employees who are working at abnormal shifts or not standard shifts, right? Especially with America, we've had people log in exactly the inverse hours. So that has been a different sort of accommodation that we've had to make. And then lastly, of course, people like us in HR, while our lives have changed, it has been more easy to move to the remote style of working. So I do feel that the conversation is not about returning to work as much in some of these organizations as much as returning to office and maybe increasing how productive we are. And as we have approached employee needs, and I think we've approached it from all our stakeholders, not just employees, but clients and community as well. And I will stick to employees for the moment because your question was directed to that. Whether people in all of these formats, we have tried to ensure employees are safe. That has been the first priority. We spent most of the first 2 weeks doing that. Then we moved to people being productive. And of course, the journey then moved on to people being connected, engaged. And now we are really talking about, and maybe this is not the Citi terminology as much as my terminology, it is about continuing to stay mentally strong because this has continued for a long period of time. So that's really how I would look at it, Amit. But I'm going to pause here and hand off to the other speakers.
Yeah. So thanks, Kripa. So, Ranjana, unlike essential services, and while government wanted it to be up and running, even if it's at a skeletal staff. But in retail, the impact was very different. I mean, we internally say that, we are all in same storm, but in different boats because the impact of COVID have been very different industry-wide. What's the kind of protocol that you are implementing to ensure that there's a safe working environment where your employees will also, be interacting with a lot of customer, and there is of course some amount of fear, in them. So what are the kind of protocols you think you have been implementing?
Well, you're right. It is, in the given scenario, there have been a lot of, I would say it has been a lot of uncertainties, and retail as a segment has been the most affected. It's been impacted by the scenario, and it's not just retail, but I'm sure it's, organizations across. Talking about the safety of our own employees, where they are more exposed to the outside world, where we, as much as we would believe that we wouldn't, as a normal individual, would I go out shopping today? Maybe I would think twice, or I would say, okay, that may not really be a good time to go. But we have seen a lot of, stores where we have a lot of footfall. In fact, a while ago, Kripa and I were just discussing about how's the business going, and do you still see a lot of footfall? And I'm not surprised. We are seeing a lot of footfall at the stores. And given the scenario that it is the end of season sales, this is something that nobody would want to miss. But we have increased the online shopping to a large extent. So our e-commerce and the distribution channel is doing much, better. We have been growing immensely, but this scenario has only helped us, move a little faster on that track. When talking about our employees, we did have the practice of a sanitizer at every store, and that has always been a practice right from day one of stores opening. That's part of the protocol. So it was a business as usual. However, just before we could open up the stores, we ensured that all the disinfection is done, ensured that every employee has gone through the safety trainings. We have ensured that the gears have reached them on time before the opening of the stores. So that was all the safety gears that is needed while, one is there exposed to the air outside, people walking in and out, putting the protocols in place. So we worked really towards the safety and hygiene of not just the store, but also implementing and ensuring that every employee is following it. So as much as we have been talking about the business and all, the stores may have been shut for the last few months. It is still today with a lot of online also happening. It's adding on to our business. And while you're talking about awareness about the scenario, the pandemic and all of that, we have utilized the 3 months that for all of us that it was a work from home. Even those all the store employees have been going through a lot of training, so they were totally occupied in the last 3 or 4 months of work from home. And that's a time where we created awareness, not just for our employees, but we have extended it to the families, and friends. So it used to be on, the network. We have the platform, and that's, I think, basic awareness, supporting them with all that is really needed to stay safe. The communication becomes the most important thing at any given time. And that has been much stronger. So it's not just our employees, but even our customers. So everybody has been, the awareness. I think that was most important. Apart from what is it that they could expect once, as a customer, I visit the store, what is it that I could expect was very clearly stated, through those communications. So the customer really feels safe. And I guess that is one reason why we still see a lot of footfalls at our stores. So the basics were taken care of.
Yeah, great. I think while we can start the offices, but customer coming, to us are also an important indication. So, Alok, I remember, talking to you, some time back, where there's an excellent work culture which is being created by HDFC, and of course our discussion was pre-COVID, and the kind of and people love working and they feel confident, working with the HDFC Asset Management. And I do see there's a lot of resources who spend long amount of time. The attrition has been low. Now, which also comes with a lot of expectations from the HR function to handle, this scenario. So what are the measures you think you have, implemented to install the confidence in the employees and, making them come back to office and start working?
Okay, let me be very honest and upfront. We have done nothing. And I mean it when I say nothing, because what I personally believe, having associated with this company kind of day 115 years in this organization, what one thing has crossed my mind is what you have done in 15 years is now going to pay the dividends. Because in these 3 months, you could have done nothing, absolutely nothing, Amit. Okay. What you did 15 years is for any organization, not my organization. If you have done your things right, you really don't need to do extra. Because today, what can you do to build a trust in 3 months? If not build over a period of time, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. So if your people have faith in your management, regardless of individual income band, I think they will take a leap of faith. So for example, whosoever had identified with COVID, whether he is on roll or off roll, I am personally speaking to the person and his parents or spouses, apart from him or her. Now, I think this comes naturally. Nobody directed me, or it has come to naturally that I must speak to him. Now, when you speak to one person, it has its own ripple effect. And you have just spoken, believe you me. And you have told that whatever days of leave you take, organization will stand by you. Even if you have LWP, we will pay full salary for it. So we are not forcing people to come back to work. Coming to your back to work point, which is the whole theme of your webinar this morning. Our unemployment rate was around 25.3%. This is according to Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. In April. Today, this rate has come down to 7.43%. Of course, there could be a few percent here and there, and it may not monitor the unorganized sector of labor. But all of us know that migrant labor is coming back to Mumbai. While it is the threat for next wave of COVID threat, but the amount of acceleration government has done controlling I'm just talking Mumbai or Delhi after some challenging times is amazing. So there are 5 imperatives for this road to recovery and back to work. Now, economic acceleration, which is more to do with the government policy and faith of entrepreneurs and industrialists in government. So that put the road to recovery through global investment and geopolitical stresses and whatever the global demand recovery. Local body acceleration. So like Bombay Corporation, Delhi Municipal Corporation, Thana Municipal Corporation, and so others, all the local bodies which give the confidence to people that all is well and please come up, because hospital admission rate and hospital exit rate, the exit rate should be more than the admission rate, and then you are generally done, even if vaccine is not around you. Third is your organizational acceleration. That is where HR leaders and the conversation around which Kripa and Ranjana has said is something which will play the pivotal role in gaining the confidence in employee participation at work, whether remotely or coming to work. Fourth is obviously these 3 things will put you the labor market acceleration. That's where the common labor would get confidence to come back to work. And last but not least, the wellness recovery, right from the vaccine to combination drugs to creating the safe distances, hygienic workplace, and provided all the paraphernalia to support the work. So this is what we are following. This is what I think we have mindset to be behind or stand by the employee. And I'm sure all the 2 other panelists have the same mindset, and so as their organization, as I know some of the organization they're working or have worked. So I think as in India, we are in really, really quite a good point or space right now. So that's it from my side, and then we will take it forward. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Alok. You're right. I think it's only the long term which instill trust, in people. And of course, while we all are oscillating between fever and fear, I think those are two important things which is holding employees back. And I mean, many organizations, are seeing people, hesitating to come back to office. Kripa, your role spans across, across many countries and many regions. Now, there are a lot of countries where the impact have been really less in comparison to India. Are there any best practices that you see, we can learn? Are we seeing any changes in the way we work this thing, and could we adopt some of them in India and learn from them? Sorry, Kripa, you are on mute, I guess.
Sorry, I was on mute. So I said that is a tough question, Amit. It is probably easier to sort of respond to which are the countries which haven't gotten impacted as much. Maybe I should share an anecdote. I sit on the Asia Pacific Consumer HR team, and just before me, I had to present an impact of how COVID had impacted India and the population that we really support, right? And just before me, as luck would have it, I had the Taiwan head of HR sort of present, right? And I don't know the Taiwan statistics at this point of time, but broadly there were 5,000 cases when I was probably adding a couple of zeros to that, and five people who they were recording as deaths due to COVID, right? So there are geographies and economies which for a multitude of reasons, and some of it very, how do I say, in support of diversity, have been led by lady political leaders. And there has been enough debate about how the health crisis was handled. And therefore the fallout on the economy. And Taiwan indeed is one of those geographies. But if you were to ask me, and really because it's an economic crisis which has come out of a health crisis, if you ask me, are there any best practices that India can take at this particular point of time? The answer is a bit difficult, right? And I honestly believe it is a tripod, and the tripod is how good is our health system? How good is our fiscal situation, right? And therefore, depending on the fiscal situation, how much money can get plowed back. And what Alok just shared in terms of unemployment rates is quite encouraging, right? But if it were to go higher, how much of our fiscal status will allow us to support or buffer up the people who are unemployed, I think is the second sort of tripod. And the third part of it is really rule adherence of people, right? And all of these are not sort of built in overnight. I mean, these are natural strengths that have been built over a period of time, or natural barriers that impede fast recovery for an economy, right? And unfortunately or fortunately, these things cannot be corrected very quickly. So the conversation really at the country level needs to veer towards, is our budget investment in this tripod happening accurately? Are we comfortable with the percentage of money which is getting invested in these three elements of the tripod, right? And I think that is a deeper conversation. And this morning I was reading a very interesting book called The Range, and it talks about, well, tactics will not work. It has to be a strategy change for this to make a sustained sort of a change on this one, Amit. I don't know if I'm answering that question, but really no easy solutions, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, you are right. I mean, this is a question which don't have a right or a wrong answer. It's just that, or how we function in our organization is because there are so many industries that we work. There are some or the other best practices that we can try to cross-validate. And I thought maybe, from a country perspective at all, there are any practices you think should work out. I think for audience, it will be a great insight. But yeah, I think you've answered the question. And Ranjana, I mean, I must go to you. So how you think, I mean, if you currently look at, I mean, we all have done some crash course in digital technology, and you in your opening remarks mentioned that that you are also looking at shifting to e-commerce and probably building up your technology this thing, because we think this is a divide between people who work with their minds on, and they can of course work from home. However, there's a large percentage of people who also who require to use their hands and legs, go to office, go to retail shops and work. So how or what kind of digital initiatives that's going to help employees? I mean, more than anything else, or your customers you see happening?
Amit, we have been in the space of e-commerce for the last 5 years now. And yes, we have been in partnership with organizations where it's a platform that we extensively use, like we have the Mint and the Amazons of the world. So that's where the business has increased, definitely. But we also have, while we have been working on the online portal of Skechers for the online shopping, which is directly from Skechers, it is implemented. We were in the process, and while it would have taken us maybe a year more, as per the plan, to launch the online shopping in terms of the Skechers, we have already initiated that in the last few months. So we knew that it was important for us to quickly get on, online, because it would have been a stronger support to the e-com business, and something that would be in-house. Now, while you're talking about the digital, it's not just about the e-commerce platform, but extensively staying connected. See, at the end of the day, however digital we go, it is about the human connect. It is about connecting with our employees day in and day out. So it is about the connect with the human touch. It is so. And specifically, it's not just about retail, but any business where it is, people are our assets. Customers are important. And how is it that we could really stay connected? It was through a lot of messages. It was, we would have our employees connect with our customers as much as we connect with our employees regularly. We would connect to our customers as well, just checking, okay, how are you doing? We understand, the walks and the runs could possibly be happening at home and not in the gyms. So we also have the online trainings that we do for, we do a Go Run Club, which is specifically, we train people who would want to eventually get into marathons or start marathons. So those were the Go Run clubs, which were physically conducted on certain days at every location. Now it is being done online. So as much as we talk about fitness, we talk about wellness. It is not just our employees, and it is open to our employees. So the Go Run Club, we talk about increasing our sales. It's about connecting with our employees as much as we connect with our customers. As much as it's digital, it's also being there when it's most needed. So there have been times when we also are aware that there would be certain customers who've said, all right, something not right at home, and it's just human. You call up, okay, is everything okay? And are we back on track? So I think that has also enabled us to keep the connects, has enabled us to, the relations have become much stronger. And today, even in a time like this, I still have customers walking up to the store. There have been certain customers just dropped in to check on our store employees to say, all right, it's just that we thought we would just drop in. We were around, and we thought we'd just drop in to check out the styles, but more to know how are you doing during a time like this. I think it's so much about building connects that way. Digitally, yes, we are progressing. We are doing outstanding with the e-commerce, and with, yes, all our partners like the Amazon and the Myntra and all of and not forgetting Edgeo is also doing a wonderful job. So the online has increased. In-house online portal also is active now.
Got it. Thanks. So Alok, while we see that digitization has kind of is preponed. I mean, the plans that we had for, let's say, 2030 are being preponed because of COVID. I think many organizations have seen this as an opportunity, where the acceptability and usage of digitization has been improved, be it customers, be it employees, and this thing. What I would want to understand from you, and are we looking at reimagining the future of role of HR? While HR is consistently assisting the business continuity and fluidity of the new norms, but are we reimagining the future role of HR in itself?
Okay, so what I see HR is, for me, entire HR piece for an organization in 4 buckets. One is the operational HR, which takes care of your daily lifestyle, compliance, and other thing. Second is the HR BP role, which works with businesses and provide HR solutions. Third is your capacity building, learning, and development, which brings the talent pipeline and talent management. And fourth is organization structure, culture, and the whole piece there, and strategy, where you work with the business leaders, board, and other things, and see to it that you create the right culture, right strategy, helicopter view, and implement it by remaining 3 wings. If you ask me, are these 4 going to dramatically change? I don't see any one of them happening. But in individual silos, one will have to bring some amount of change to make it far more responsive, far more bias for action, speed, acceleration, and all those things will happen. For example, HRBP role will now have to translate to HR talent leader. Okay. Similarly, the strategy or the culture piece has to also bring in the recovery and the assurance and employee wellness piece, which was otherwise a very tiny piece. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, this has gone up much bigger. And when you talk of wellness, it's not about the physical and mental wellness. It is also about the sphere fact that the series of action create that assurance that yes, employee will take care of us. As sometimes I say, it is not the king, but aura of king which rules. So will your HR actions will create that aura of assurance and faith and trust, which will help people to go all out, take discretionary efforts and leap of faith. And that's where the extraordinary results will come. I think these fundamentals are not going to change in reasonable future. Only thing is, the people in HR who will understand these dynamics and can decode that, their compensation will certainly hit the roof. This will continue to be at the bottom of pyramid.
Yeah. So, if I understood it correctly, the aura is also creating a culture, in the organization, which helps everybody to come together. So, Kripa, I mean, while we are seeing this increasing tendency of people to socialize and communicate via digital devices, I mean, the way we are doing webinar currently, rather than the real life contact. Now, this can easily lead to a sense of disconnect and isolation. how should companies respond to mitigate such changes, and what kind of impact you think will bring on people? Because at the end of the day, we are all social animals.
No, Amit, your question is also, I sort of see the theme coming up in the question and answers as well. And some of these we have been reacting as things have come up as HR leaders, and Alok and Ranjana can also vouch for this one, right? Like I said, we began with keeping our employees safe, whether they were working from home or they were working from sites. We moved to saying, are they productive? Are we ensuring that we give them enough technology support to ensure they're able to deliver their roles? Then we moved on to saying, how are they staying engaged? Because it's a new reality, and we need to react to that and yet keep people engaged, right? Which is when you had larger group connect sessions. We moved to Zoom. So you try to replicate team meetings the best possible digitally. You also try to create a few fun sessions. We spoke to managers to say, how do you continue to have development discussions with people in a period where probably talent development programs where people would have been a part of a big cohort, met the CEO in person. All of those things aren't happening. How do you still keep employee development at front and center, right? So you move to staying engaged. Now, I think because this whole discussion has moved to the fact that this arrangement is going to continue at least for the medium haul till the wellness recovery happens, right? How are we going to build resilience? And I think psychological safety are really two important conversations that are happening. Now, how have we, some examples of how we've done it is we have close to 2,000 odd people managers. It is really being able to get out both in terms of virtual training programs, webinars with all of these managers so that you can share some tips as well as ensure cross-pollination of ideas, because really I don't believe all answers need to come from one person. Managers have also coped, adapted, and the best leaders obviously vary their style to suit the need of the situation. So we are holding WebEx conferences with just people managers where there's a transference of ideas and practical tips of how they are dealing with it. And I think the conversation has also been about building empathy. And I know Ranjana and Alok touched upon it in very, very many ways, right? And in some ways, maybe cutting out a few of the other senses has raised our auditory senses, and some deeper conversations are happening between managers and their employees as well, right? Where you really do know with kids floating into the video conversations, the book that you read appearing at the back in your bookshelf, right? I think some of these conversations and empathy connections are happening a little bit more deeper. It is about staying alive to some of those conversations that can happen. So some of it has been because of that. And on resilience, I also believe that we, for instance, ran a gratitude week last week, which we used an online sort of a format to ensure that we thank the people who kept us going and continuing to work as colleagues, as people who set like somebody I knew. There were 5 people who sat in a row. They sort of got together on a Zoom call, right? So somebody basically communicated the gratitude, saying, I still thank the 4 people who sat in the same row as I sat for keeping me going, right? I mean, water cooler conversations aren't happening, but they found a workaround on Zoom. So I think that paying back in terms of gratitude and finding ways to socially be connected. And we are creating organizational avenues like this gratitude week to ensure some of that social connect keeps going. And like I said, we are talking to managers to say that it's not just about getting tasks done, and it is really about understanding the whole self. And again, these are not new conversations. These are conversations we probably had even before. It's just that the need for some of these conversations has increased because every day I do get the other side of the story as well, right? I mean, for a few employees, and I'm not saying many, there is really no one size fits all for all of this, right? There are people who had home circumstances due to which office was a safe place and a place to get away to, right? For all of them who now don't have that option, life, forget work, is looking quite difficult, right? So how do you help those people? Is there anything that you can do, because the social fabric and ethos of the colleague connect is no longer available, right? Are all elements of resilience, right? And increasingly, with the uncertainty in the economic environment, a psychological safety is also becoming a question at this point of time. We haven't done as much work as we have done in the resiliency space yet on the psychological safety, but we are, what the beginning that we have made is that we are putting this as a necessary component in our manager training programs at this point of time. So that's how we're moving the dialogue to this as well. We are looking to launch a deeper professional skill building workshop, about an hour, 2 hour of conversation as well in this space. So those are some of the things that we're doing, Amit.
Yeah, that's great. So Kripa, I mean, sorry, Ranja, you know, what are the kind of steps you are as an organization taking so that the human touch, in all the people related transaction continue? While you mentioned that people are already, in the, in the stores, but the regular connects of engagement activities, what are the steps you are taking, in your organization?
Well, taking it from the previous question also that you had about digitalization, a lot of our employee engagement is now digital. While we're talking about digital, we're not expecting our employees, the ground level to be having laptops or, being there online while they are working. Now that even the stores are functional, while we're talking about the employee engagement part, yes, communication has been the most important, and it has been to the core right from day one. The frequency has gone a little more higher, where we've had the HODs, we have, the business heads of different functions as well, interacting with those at the floor level, right? So it was never an opportunity unless they would have left out or moved out of their cabin and moved to different locations and the stores, which would have been a one-time exercise, or probably they would whenever they visit the locations. But through this, digitalization and working from home, it's only opened doors to having that happening more frequently. And I think that has also enabled us to take care of the emotions, right? So because it's such an uncertain period, and with a lot of uncertainty of what's happening with other organizations or what's happening with companies, and are we in the same boat? There is a lot of it used to be at least 3 months ago, before we got functional on the stores, but still that element of uncertainty and fear. So that is something that we did not want it to arise or allow anyone to fan it in any possible way. So the first thing was to take care of the emotions, and it was regular communication. It is about reaching out. We did have the reward ceremonies happening. We did have, in fact, let me confess, we have received a lot more participation in the employee engagement activities during this time. I mean, we're running out of, we have our phones and the groups going beeping all the time with the new videos dropping in with, maybe a painting of possibly an employee's child has just painted something, And, they're happy to post it on the group. They're happy to just share about it. And those were certain elements that were, I would say, was missing, or possibly it was there only in the store in a specific location. And, unless we actually announce there is some kind of a competition or something like that, and the participation's rolling in. But this time, in the last few months, we've seen they're more proactive. They're more happy to connect. Even at times when we said, okay, we are about to open the stores, and we had people who were ready. We had people who have moved back to their hometowns, and we have been a total support in them. We ensure that they have moved to their hometowns safely. Have they been quarantined? What are the precautions? What are the safety measures taken? Regularly connecting with them. And I think that it's only communication. It's only about being in touch with people and employees really helps. And that has helped us. And I'm sure this is one thing that takes the organization a long way.
So I think there's a lot of discussion happening around employee engagement and how do we keep people, engaged. Alok, I mean, with lot of employees also now coming back to their HR and businesses, seeking approval to work from home. What do you think in your business would be, percentage of people who may permanently work from home and, in future, and may never come back office? Do you think that's the kind of model which is developing?
So to answer your question immediately, I see a hybrid model emerging. And many advanced level organizations, maybe like Citi, I know they always had a policy around work from home. May not be as structured as they would now like to do or they might be doing. But a recent survey has revealed that around 76% people want to work from home permanently, right? Yeah. Because that gives them a lot of relief from traveling for 1.5 to 2 hours. And not Mumbai, which has always been a poster boy for traveling for work, but now we see even Delhi, Bangalore, even Chennai, Calcutta. So traveling is becoming a nightmare, especially large cities. And cities like even Indore and Baroda and Ahmedabad are also no less. People are traveling 45 minutes to 1 hour nowadays for work, as people are getting settled in the satellite locations for cheaper real estate. So yes, it is a trend, and thanks to COVID, it has accelerated the digital, working to give them opportunity. So what we see in our organization, it will go and settle somewhere around 30 to 40% people work from home, especially non-customer facing functions. So maybe 20, 25, 30% of people will continue to work from a home, especially as you require, many roles require a screen-based working. There you don't really need person-to-person interaction. So it will evolve and eventually it will settle from work from anywhere. I think that's the one more step ahead of work from home. Yeah. Let's see. I think this looks to be a logical move, but let the dust settle in 12 months from now. We will have more clearer idea how things are settling. But organizations and HR will have to be far more open to this idea rather than working from brick and mortar structure, which has its own advantages. Of course, one can't rule that out. And there's a lot of psychological support when you rub the shoulders with your peer levels, talk. Gossip also has a role. You need a lot of assurance. So we can't, that's a way quite human, interaction is core to human. Otherwise we are not social animals. We are interacting with electronic devices, getting instant gratification. But that brings its own psychological challenge. Interacting with your device and watching, dealing with your apps and YouTubes and other things versus dealing with Amit. What a pleasure we get when we interact with you, Amit. So I think it will have its advantage, and I think we will evolve as a species and as a workforce eventually. So let's keep our finger crossed. I think as a race, as a mankind, we will always get what is in the larger good interest of ours.
True. So, yeah. I think we're running out of time, but I think I'll quickly jump on to some of the Q&A which audience have asked before we jump on to a rapid fire. So we do this rapid fire, one-liner or a one-word kind of stuff. But I'll just quickly take some of the questions which have come.
So many I have already answered, Amit, online. Okay.
Yeah, I saw, and in fact that was I wanted to ask that question, and I think somebody in the audience already asked, because I understand HDFC do a lot of freshers hiring, but maybe I'll pose this question to Kripa and Ranjana for their views also. There was an impact on a lot of campuses, this year, where organizations have gone low in the number of hirings eventually. So how what suggestions you would have for freshers, and what is the steps that is there any thing that your organizations are doing for fresher hiring, be it in IT or any profile? I think is there any initiative be taken for fresher hiring or campus hires this thing? Yeah, so Kripa, Ranjana, any one of you?
I can go, Amit. I think Alok shared the stage where we did speak to a number of campus students some months ago, actually. Well, at least for us, we haven't seen any impact. We haven't really rescinded any offers. We are still planning the cycle for the next year. I can't really comment about the future numbers, but we've onboarded about 2,000 odd people, pretty much virtually, over the last period of the lockdown. So and having said that, I'm mindful that there are other industries. When we did this conversation with the larger group of freshers, there is a concern, and there have been other companies who've rescinded their offers. So it's not as if somebody else can pick up that easily in this environment, right? At best, you can stay true to commitments that were made. I don't think you are hiring over and above. So I do sort of understand the predicament that freshers must be facing. But all I can say is, when I passed out almost 20 years ago, right, there was a crisis of another nature. And in fact, it was a crisis probably more economic, less health like the one this is. And even before me, there was a a senior batch who had a similar crisis and felt that that would be probably the end of whatever careers as we saw it, right? And we all know what happened. I found another job, may not be the ideal job. I found it a bit later, and then life sort of carries on. And I believe that learnings happen better when you are failing rather than when you are succeeding. I did sort of briefly see some of the messages that Alok had put out. I would say use the time wisely, right? One of the things that we have as a tenet within the organization is that we will continue to innovate and we'll make the most of now, right? So I would say that that's probably the one advice that I would give to the freshers as well, that continue to make the most of now and continue to innovate, right? As long as you continue to skill yourself, that when the tide will turn, and I am very confident that in India the tide will turn, especially given the nature of the economy that we are, the person who has made the most of now will have the edge, right? So that really is the message that I do want to leave.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion. I think skill yourself in this time, is an important message. So, Ranjana, your views on this?
Well, Amit, as an organization, we've always worked with a very lean structure, and be it not just at the office, that's the head office, but even at the stores. Unlike where we would see a lot of employees at the store level, but we've always worked with a lean structure. Talking about recruitments and all of that, we did at, how is it, and because we have very specific institutes, which is more specific to do with the footwear industry, and the campus recruitments were put on a hold at least I think 2 years ago, because we really wanted to develop people in-house. And it's not that we never gave an opportunity to freshers. It is about looking at the niche and looking at where is it. It's also about being fair to all the employees that would be onboarded. It's not that, you hire a fresher and, you know, even if it is a campus recruitment, doing all the tasks about something where they feel, okay, what am I doing? I don't say that, many organizations possibly be, but that is the basics. Those are the basic steps. I'm sure we all started as freshers and we have soiled our hands, because of which we are, here. We understand the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of the business. And but when I talk about the campus recruitments today, we are not hiring anyone at the moment. Yes, we're looking at a different strategy of rebuilding and looking at the workforce planning. And this has given us an opportunity, because we are in a phase where we have been talking about competencies. Just to give you a backdrop, we have been into a transition mode as an organization. So there have been a lot of mix, models that we have been using in terms of workforce planning, be it the talent management, talking about learning and development. So today, if you see, at least we have these verticals which are more acceptable, and employees are seeing that, yes, it is strategic HR. HR is not just about, my payroll or, my salary coming on, or looking at my attendance. They are looking at HR differently. So in this scenario, if I have to look at hiring, at the moment, no, we are not hiring anyone. But going forward, as we're working on the workforce planning, definitely we are looking at niche, skills and competencies that would be onboarded in the coming year.
No, that's an interesting point. So, while niche skills, I'm sure is and especially in the IT domain, a lot of organizations are. So, let me just quickly go to the rapid fire questions. Maybe one by one, I can go. I can probably start with Kripa. So, Kripa, like I said, it's a rapid fire, one word kind of a answer. I mean, that's how the questions are being defined. So when do we go back to pre-COVID levels of growth in this country? Is it 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 1 year? What's your answer to that? This is at the country level, not at Citibank level. So
Got it. I'm going to say, at least this is a personal opinion, there's something called a Stockdale syndrome. I'm optimistic about the outcome, but I'm going to stay pessimistic about the timelines. So I would put it out at least 4 to 8 quarters away.
4 to 8 quarters. Okay, got it. Sure. How has COVID impacted your industry? I mean, in terms of job creation perspective, high, medium, low?
As an industry, I would say I don't think COVID has changed it. It's flatline.
So it's medium?
Medium, yeah.
Okay. Do you think the average wages will go down?
I don't think it's going to go down. If all of you have read the Deloitte report, you can see that it's moved down already from 9 to about 3.6%, which is an average increase. So I do think that the trending will go lower. India has seen double-digit increases. So it will come down, but we will probably still increase wages.
Okay. As we are getting back to work, what's the biggest challenge you have in your role? A one-word answer?
multiple formats, right? So multiple formats will require different HR solutions. So I think the formats are going to increase.
Okay. Okay. And we do see COVID as an opportunity to change things from how things were done in past. And what is that one thing that you would want organizations to change and adopt permanently?
FaceTime culture.
FaceTime culture. Okay. Okay, great. So Ranjana, over to you. When do you see we go back to pre-COVID levels of growth in this country? Again, 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters, 1 year. What's your view?
I'm sure my thought is not different from all of us over here as early as possible. But given the scenario and of what is really happening, I'm sure it's going to take a few months to go. But if you're talking about business, it's a business as usual. And I see a lot of new trends or, new ways of working that as organizations, we have explored. And that brings us back on track very soon. So I really cannot give you the timeline, but as early as possible.
Okay, sure. Now, how has COVID impacted your industry? I mean, high, medium, low, from a job creation perspective. You've already answered, but you want to choose between high, medium, low?
It has made an impact. Initially high, now I would say medium, and we're getting on track.
Sure. And what do you think? Will the average wages go down?
I would say no.
No. And what the challenges you see in your role, if you have to define in a word?
The challenge is again getting back to speed. Yes, it's just getting back with the kind of speed that we have been growing at. So I think it's just the speed.
And from the learning of COVID, one thing that you would want organizations to change and adopt permanently?
Continue with communication and staying connected with people. I think that's the core.
Okay.
And I'm sure even verticals, technical verticals, which are so hardcore into technicalities, understand that much better today. So yes, it's staying connected.
So Alok, I'm coming back to you on when do you think we will go to pre-COVID level of growth?
Okay, so I'll take slightly longer, maybe 30 seconds to respond to this. The growth, post-COVID growth has many other external dimensions which is going to affect. One such thing which is fueling the economy and maybe index today is the quantitative easing, which is not truly reflecting the economic activities. Even RBI governor has admitted that. But there are other dimensions, like right now, there's a lot of geopolitical tension. So even if standalone, all other things being neutral, you may look for a growth and demand in maybe 2 years or so. But let's see how those other dimensions pan out, right from US election to the relationship with the neighboring countries and so on and so forth, speaking strictly in India context. But as a restless species in this subcontinent, I'm quite confident that we will bounce back earlier than what we otherwise anticipate.
Okay. So 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter.
I think pre-COVID, at least 3 to 4 quarters.
3 to 4 more quarters. So
Yes.
maybe a year. Okay.
Yes.
But, and what do you think? Will the average wages go down?
I don't think wages will go down. Wages will rather may go up.
Go up.
Yes. It is very difficult today, as I sometimes say in my webinar, I said, it is easy to hire a CEO than hiring a boiler operator or a DG set operator.
Absolutely.
Okay. So more the skill involved, higher the wages will go up.
Okay. And again, as we get back to work, what is the biggest challenge you have in your role? I mean, one word answer.
I think we will continue to be sincere, honest, and earnest with our employees. I think that's the transparency and good governance are the two mantras, I think.
Right. Okay.
It covers all.
Okay. And, one thing that you would want organizations to change or adopt permanently?
No, organization should demonstrate the agility to change. For example, our 90% of investors are now investing online, which you dreamt about it. I mean, we were going after them to invest online, but 90% investment is coming online. So I think organization will have to always surpass and think ahead of this. So agility is something which we will continue to expect and reinvent ourselves.
That's great. But 90+% is good number.
Yes, online investment. Yes.
Asset management organization always jumps
yes.
for it.
So if recruitment is something which you were otherwise asking to other panelists, I see a reasonable freeze only mission criticals hiring or somebody who will directly impact the top line or bottom line or risk and governance.
Right.
Yes.
That's great. Cool. So I think we come at the end of it. So thank you all. Thank you all the audience for being part of the webinar. Thank you, Kripa. Thank you, Ranjana. Thank you, Alok, for taking out time for this webinar.
Oh, yes.
It was
Thank you
a pleasure.
for having us and
Thank
pleasure
you
to
for
meeting
having us.
two wonderful ladies again, especially with Kripa. We share the NHRD platform together.
Thank you.
Ranjana, thank you.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you, Kripa. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you. Nice meeting you again, Alok. Thanks, Amit, for the opportunity. Good to meet you, Ranjana.
Same here, Kripa. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, participants.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay, taking the permission to sign off.